Today's episode is one of the special episodes that I have on my channel because we often talk about justice, debates, and at the same time rights, but we often forget people who are actually part of it and actually make it practicing and help us to get justice. So, with the honor, let's welcome our guest tonight. That is Miss Shreya Smriti, ma'am, and a leading advocate in Supreme Court of India. So, it's an absolute honor for me. So, starting off the podcast with one of my favorite questions, that is, before you entered your law, so what was you as a person, and how did you imagine your childhood and like your future from your childhood?
Before law entered my life, I was a very observant and a sensitive person. I grew up seeing courtrooms closely because law was already present in my family. My father, my uncles are already the advocates and judges in my family. But as a child, I didn't see law as a profession. I had some other plan, but it was destiny, the universe, that law made me enter into this profession. And I'm glad that I did. Life changed very early for me. Like there were incidences in my family that phase matured me. I guess matured me like in a sense faster than most of the people of my other age. And at that time, I didn't imagine a glamorous future. I imagined stability, self-respect, and independence. Law slowly became not just a career choice, but means of rebuilding life.
Okay, that's an absolute great answer. So, when you choose law, like when you started actually graduating or you come into that degree, so it was like more kind of your practical choice, or you had an like ideal, or like it was more kind of circumstance based.
It was ideal as well as circumstantial. Honestly, it was a combination of all the three. Like idealism was always there. The belief that law can correct injustice. Practicality came from seeing how the system actually works through my family. And but circumstances played a very strong role after something in my family, like the incidences that I have faced, lost stopped being a legacy and became a responsibility for me. I wasn't about following footsteps, it was about standing on my feet thereafter.
Oh wow, that's nice. So as I said, like my parents are advocates as well. So I actually have a really close idea of what courts really looks like and how does the justice system work. So if there's somebody who's watching this who has no legal background or who really do not understand how courts work, so if you can like tell them how courts work is step by step from local courts to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so at a basic level, disputes start at trial courts where facts are examined, appeals go to the high courts, and constitutional or final questions reach the Supreme Court. But beyond this structure, the system works on documents, arguments, timelines, and human judgment. It's not just about laws, it's about how responsibly those laws are applied. And even in the writ matters, the High Court and the Supreme Court can be approached directly.
Okay, wow, that's nice. So at what point, like when you study something, that's a really another dynamic of things, and when you actually start practicing it, it's a very different dynamic. So when you actually like even you realize that this is different, like reading law and actually practicing is two different things.
Look, so the first day I entered a courtroom, law schools basically prepares you academically, but court tests your temperament. Living law means dealing with human sufferings, expectations, and long-term uncertainty. Something books can never teach. So while I was in my college days, it was more of a fun. And whatever I had learned in the academic practices, it was not just directly applying to the courtrooms. It's far different, and it's like practical approach is really good.
Okay, so as a citizen, we always hear that justice in India is always delayed, it's always very long term to get justice. So this is what we hear outside from courtroom. How does you explain this matter and what actually caused this delay, like from inside of the courtroom experience?
Like I would like to sum up in a short, delays are caused by multiple layers. Shortage of judges, infrastructure gaps, but right now the infrastructures are quite good, I believe, like in the metropolitan cities, but there are in the like remote areas, it is still going on. There are procedural complexities, frequent adjournments that has been sought or that is sought, and sometimes even litigant behavior. But justice delivery is not broken at one point, it's stretched at many points. But if we are going to work on it, justice is not being delayed.
Okay. So, like, as we talked about, like, cases are taken so long to actually complete. So, who actually suffers most, like, emotionally and financially in your experience?
Most of the time it is the litigants, but sometimes it is the law firms, that means the advocates too, just because they are working on that particular cases. But like for us the advocates, it's our work. For judges it's their duty, but for the litigants it's life on hold. Like they are being emotionally exhausted and financially draining as well for them.
Okay. So if somebody only understands Supreme Court from actually the only headlines that we see or the news reels, all that, so what is exactly something important which they are missing, which you think that they should really, really understand?
All right. So I guess the person who are only focusing on like Supreme Court headlines, for them, they are really missing the daily grind. Thousands of non-headline matters that affect ordinary people. All right. So justice is not only made in landmark judgments, it's delivered in routine hearings every single day, not just before the Supreme Court, the other tribunal, the other high courts, trial courts too.
Okay, so like talking about this again, so like some of the cases as we talked about headlines, so some of the cases actually attain a lot of public interest and are like a media attention as well. So does that atmosphere actually put anything difference in the courtroom? Like let's say when there's somebody who is a really, really big profile person comes in a courtroom, how is that feel?
Okay, so I would say slightly, just because there's heightened attention. But inside the courtroom, judges are trained to remain unaffected. Law demands insulation from outside, like the noise. Okay?
Okay.
And the media shapes public perception, not legal reasoning. Advocates learn to focus on law, not headlines. Emotional noise cannot replace constitutional principles.
Okay,
And law demands insulation from the noise, I said. So the outside the courtroom, yes. Inside, not really. The legal process is designed to treat everyone equally, irrespective of status, even
okay.
though in the high profile cases.
Okay, so how do you actually handle those pressure, like when there's lot of media coverage, when there's lot of pressure from the outside world on the courts and like everybody's waiting for the judgment. So how do actually advocates manage those pressure and like handle those things?
Like I said, we are being unaffected from the noise that has been created outside from the media or the other sources. We are keen to like we have to work on our cases, so we are basically focused on our cases, how to do it well, like the arguments and all, and we just keep on preparing for it and hoping for the best to happen in that case. And in short, truth shall be prevail. That's all.
Okay, that's an absolute great thing. So, like recently, the Aravali matters were on the peak about the Supreme Court. So, like, how do court actually balance the economic growth and at the same time long-term environmental justice?
Okay, so in this, courts look at sustainable development, not just anti development. Like the environmental cases are about protecting future generations while allowing responsible growth. So, after having a thorough study on it, whatever the record is with the court, and after going through it all, and the court basically looks in at the sustainable developments and focusing on the future generations well.
Okay, that's nice. So, like, talking about the same thing, there was like a stray dog matter in Delhi recently, and that there was a huge protest about it as well. So, from the constitutional and legal perspective, how should like a emotionally charged, like, how do actually we work upon those cases? Like, when you talk really about animals and like those who actually cannot appeal to the court, actually.
Okay, so stray dogs and regarding the public safety and this emotional issues are being handled how legally is that we balance it with balance. Compassion must exist, but public safety cannot be compromised at the same time. Courts weigh constitutional duties, keeping in mind the municipal responsibilities and social welfare together.
Okay, so more broadly, do you think that public interest litigation, that is PIL, today is used more responsibly or it is used like it is misused?
Both exist. Like today, it is being used, I mean, in a good sense and misused as well at the same time. But PIL remains a powerful tool. But courts now is scrutinize motives carefully to prevent misuse.
Okay, so like we actually talk law as one of the noble profession, like doctors, lawyers are those are like one of the noble professions we have in our society. But what is the other side of this profession which nobody really talks about?
Okay. So there are mental pressure, loneliness, long periods of uncertainty. Law demands emotional resilience that is rarely discussed. There are advocates who are not just there. We are not just having one cases that we have to work on. We have to balance those cases apart from these cases, we have to also work on the counseling that has been given to the client. Just because it is, however, the client who is facing all this. So we have to manage all this and keeping in mind the law that is going into the courtroom as well. So all in short, we are literally into high pressure. There are hectic schedule that we have to balance in our life. At the same time, we have to manage our family as well.
I see, I can relate to this a lot, I think, because I see that on my
And there are also some, there are most of the times like who are basically into this profession, the advocates, we are hardly getting time to even talk to our family. Like if we are into this profession, we have to work on the cases just because there are limited period wherein we have to get the case filed. There are limitations that we have to work on. So so keeping it all balanced, we are however managing it, but uh, it becomes sometimes like quite hectic for us to manage.
Okay, so like for the all the young lawyers, like those who want to pursue this or who are actually pursuing this right now, so if they don't have a really strong network or kind of like a stability background, like what do you think are the hard things that they are gonna face in the certain period of time, like in their initial year, and what advices would you give to them?
All right. So for young lawyers, I would suggest like while you are in your college years, if you are getting time, kindly focus on internships. They are boon for you. Like if you are having vacations, be it the winter vacations or the summer vacations, I would suggest please have internships not just in trial courts but the high courts and thereafter the supreme courts. Do have your internships at the NGOs. Also have your internships in the government offices. You can get it online. The websites they are already having internship opportunities. Kindly apply on it. Have corporate exposures as well. Just because when you are going to graduate, whichever year you are going to, after that you just need to, I guess, you will be having a clear image like which way you have to go, like further where you have to pursue, like you want to become a litigation associate or a corporate associate. You will be already clear in my mind. And for those who really want to join this litigation profession, I would suggest be focused on the trial courts, high courts, and the Supreme Court's practices. Keep on drafting, keep on researching, so that once you graduated, you just need to work with the senior like hardly for 1 or 2 years, and you have to focus on maintaining networks. If you're good with maintaining networks, I'm telling you, uh, the cases will come in your hand. Like you just need to be loyal with your work, be dedicated, have patience, and you can run in this profession.
I think that's a smart move. I think I can absolutely agree on the networking part because networking actually open a lot of doors. So how was
Yes,
your
and there are many advocates too now who are supporting generations like the young generations. Even I feel the same. Being a young independent advocate, like I'm running my own firm presently. So for those lawyers who are just very young, they have no clue what to do, where to do. I'm here for you guys, and like I'll be supporting you all thoroughly. Just you need to focus on yourself. Like you should be also concerned with your law, the backgrounds and all. Keep on reading, keep on studying law, not just into the practical approach like you are being seen in the college life, but into the practical as well.
Okay. So how was your experience initially? Like, what was your reaction when you actually went to the courtroom and like, how was your initial days in the court?
All right. So it was quite fascinating for me. My internships, I have done several internships before all those forums. And when I joined this profession as an official, like officer, it was really cool. Like when I graduated, it was not just me, but my senior also, who had faith in me, the confidence in me, that I guess. As soon as I became an advocate, I appeared before the Supreme Court. I was just asked to present a case before the Supreme Court. All right. My senior asked me to assess the AOR before the Supreme Court. But however, the AOR asked me like just go and have this brief and all of those sort. Like in the morning, all morning itself, I was given the brief, and you won't believe that I appeared before the Supreme Court. It was my first training after I being graduated, and I was having my membership at the Bar Council of Delhi here itself. And also thereafter, the order was in my favor. At the evening, when my senior saw it in the order, he asked me that, did you appear in this case? And I said, yes, sir. So even said, you appeared by yourself? Mela, yes, sir. Where was he? Mela, he asked me to appear in this case. Even he felt glad. Thereafter, I was being just because thereafter I attend the that confidence, and that was the reason my senior keep on me asking like appear before the tribunals, the NCDRCs. Within 1 month of experience, like I graduated, I had appeared in numerous courts and forums, not just in Delhi but like pan India also.
Oh my God, that's such a fascinating thing, to be honest. Like that's like the kickoff to the journey itself.
Exactly, and that is the same thing I have been asking like young generations to work on, and I believe that they can really do good.
Yeah, I think I do agree that we should actually like we should not like we should actually ask questions and like take help from the
uh,
seniors. So like as
and there
a
are seniors who are really going to entertain you, like they are really going to guide you, so keep on asking questions, keep on learning.
So, like, as a women, like, because obviously we see the ratio is quite different and quite low as women participation in law and any other field in general. So, do you think your experience or like anybody experience as a woman would be different just because of their gender?
Yes, I would say like women often have to prove competence repeatedly. The scrutiny is higher, expectations are sharper. But yes, with all your experiences and the hard work, I believe you can. I have done, you can do it too.
Okay, that's amazing. So, do you believe the legal ecosystem has genuinely improved for women? Like, if you really talk about like 50 years back, there are improvements in the courts.
Okay, yeah, yes, it has improved structurally, but cultural changes is still ongoing. Progress is real, but it is incomplete. But I believe in the coming years, it will be gradually improving more.
Okay, so like we actually see law as like some profession that give us lot of status and lot of money. So like if there's somebody young who goes into this profession thinking of money and status, how would you talk to them and how what advice would you give to them?
Like initially, so it is going to take time. I would not so gradually it will, but gradually it will happen. Law tests patience before it rewards success. So underestimated skills are like drafting, listening, emotional intelligence, and courtroom etiquettes. But if you are into this practice, you have been working, I believe that even time will pass by and you're going to reward by with success. Time and money will follow you for sure.
Okay, so yeah, so you have been seeing the system since long. So how actually long you have been practicing law and at this moment, and what expected change you want to see in the future in the courts, like especially talking about the Supreme Courts.
Okay, so today I am running as my 4 year experience. I have done my 3 years of experience, and by this you can see like how young I am. Like just because even in my courtroom, the people be like just because seeing in me, but after when they see my argument, there are also in my like social channel like what I have been arguing, and I have been getting appreciation from the judges. So it is quite going well, and I believe with time it will be going. I mean a lot well. And regarding the change at all, so technology has changed fast. E-filing, virtual courts, and what hasn't changed is pendency and workload pressure.
Oh, wow, that's like an amazing one. So, like, without going into detail, if you have any case that you have handled in all those 4 years, which like has emotionally stayed with you, or which has taught you something for life, which I think no textbook can teach.
Look, every cases we are going to gain something or the other. There are cases. It is not just one case that we will learn from it, but there are cases on we work on it, and from each and every cases we feel like okay. So there are adjournment that we should not ask for unless it is necessary, or else the court is also not going to give you adjournments day by day. There are we should not be delayed with like filing of the structures. Arguments should be well prepared. The cases that we are going through, it should be all served like in a manner without wasting time of the court as well as yours, or creating pressure on the litigants too.
Okay, so if you had like if you could actually fix one problem in the Indian justice system today, what it would be?
Like if there are younger generations advocate, there are many, not many, but there are few of the other advocates that they feel like a threat to it. All right. And there are also few of the males that they feel like that the women are threat to them. Like I have been also receiving few texts from them. And it
Yeah.
is quite not natural or like pleasing to see those comments. There are people also who are encouraging you. Like there are people, everyone is encouraging you, but there are like typical, I would say, people like who keep on texting, or like it is really like kind of demotivating if it is being seen like regularly in your messages and DMs. So these are the things that really need to be changed. People should work on their mentality too.
I think this is something which is not just specific to law. I think this is to everybody who is like
Ha,
doing
to
the
every, yeah,
like every woman is
to
facing this
every
problem.
spectrum, I believe.
So like
But
after
so we have to focus on ourselves. We have to work on it. Who cares? Like we are not what the ones who will go through it and keep on responding just because responding. Those messages are not going to work with it.
yeah.
So
So
better work on ourselves and keep on rising high.
yeah, so like after all of this year, what actually kept you in law? Like you said, like you did not really had a plan since childhood to come here. So like what actually made you stay?
Okay, so what made me like it is what made me stay, there are many reasons that made me stay in the profession. Just because earlier I was not that person, although I pursued law, but I was not that person who would be joining litigant, I mean litigation. So I was the one who was like, for initial years I was looking for some stability, so I wanted to join the corporate one. All right, so like everybody does, so I was my thinking like I should better go and join corporate. It will like 9 to 7 jobs and all right. And thereafter, I guess I got many opportunities. I have even cleared exams for like legal researcher, but I dropped it off. I did not join those professions. I would be in as a young age, like I'd be getting paid in a good amount. But although I left it, I was being asked to join as a legal advisor in companies. There were also many other companies from the like metropolitan cities where I cleared it, and they asked me, but litigation is more fun, like dealing with cases and thereafter serving for that justice. That there are people who are naturally looking for it. Like I like people, I like working for those people who are literally suffering from it. And it made me state, apart from this, there are, of course, there is like fame. People respects you a lot. You are being asked wherever you are, like in any function or any event, you are being asked. Like I have, as a young generation, like I have been asking, I have been contacted by media teams and all, like to give interviews and all. So it is quite fascinating, I must say.
Okay, wow.
So it is one of the thing that is that is staying with me, and I really liking this profession. I being asked to like come into the this as a guest into the college and the schools and all. So I am liking it, like for sure. Like I want to young, I like to work for young as well as those people like who are underprivileged. So this is what which has made me stayed in this profession, and I'll be keep working in this, and for looking for those people who are uh, looking for those people who are underprivileged, so that I can do something for them as well.
Okay, so I think this statement actually in general proves that law is still a noble profession and it has to do a lot with helping people. So yeah,
Yeah,
finally
it
the
is
last
still
yeah, so finally the last question, and this is one of my favorite questions, that is, what is the best piece of
okay.
advice you have ever heard or received?
Okay, so build credibility before chasing success. That advice shapes how I practice law and run my firm today. That's all.
And yeah, there's like one plus question that like to end this is what advices would you give to young women or girls like in their teens who want to work and like who want to actually do something big in their life?
Like in big in their life in this profession, particularly in this profession.
Any profession.
Okay, so I would say believe on yourself. The world will keep doubting on you, but you have to work on yourself. Just keep on working in whatever profession you are in. Just be sure of what you are doing. Do it with the loyalty, the dedication, and keep ignoring people who are going to interfere like way or the other way. So you are going to like high. You'll be rising in your life anyways.
So yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. So with that, thank you so much, ma'am, for actually joining this and sharing so much of information. It's really, really lovely to have you here. And once again, thank you so much for your time. And to all those who are watching this, thank you so much for keeping patience and watching this. And hope to see you next time. And if you want any specific guest from a specific niche, to make sure to put it down in the comments, and we'll definitely, definitely try to bring out here. So thank you so much for watching. It's lovely to see you here.